Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Ben Data, co-chair of DSW. This year marks the 10-year anniversary of Denver Startup Week. This community has been a catalyst for lots of change over the past decade, and this week we're coming together to celebrate the past and dream big for the future. We are able to bring Denver Startup Week to this community thanks to our 2021 sponsors. Thank you to our HQ and title sponsor, Amazon, and our title sponsors, whose leadership makes this week come to life. Capital One Cafe, Downtown Denver Partnership, Fluid Truck, Hotel Engine, and WeWork. And our track sponsors, who have made all of the great content you're hearing today possible. Founder Track, Kickstart, Growth Track, Friday Health Plans, Developer Track, Quizlet, Product Track, Palantir, Designer Track, Battery 621 in the Public Works, People Track, Exactly, and Spotlight event sponsor, Strat Labs. Our headline event sponsors are bringing the excitement this week. Thank you to B-Side Fund, Colorado Public Radio, Comcast, Coors Brewing Company, Denver Pavilions, Entrepreneurship at the University of Denver, Gusto, JP Morgan Chase, Method, Moss Adams, Pine Insurance, Promontory Mortgage Path, Red Bull Basement, Southwest, Tattered Cover, and VF Venture Foundry. Finally, thank you to our partner and member sponsors listed on the screen. Please say thank you to these companies as you enjoy our hybrid Denver Startup Week. And don't forget to use hashtag Den Startup Week to share your experience and moments of inspiration on social media. Have a great week.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm John, the Spotlight Track Chair and member of the Denver Startup Week Organizing Committee. Thank you for joining us for the 10th anniversary of Denver Startup Week. At Denver Startup Week, we strive to make all of our sessions a space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow regardless of age, gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, or sexual orientation. A special thank you to our sponsors for their support in helping us keep DSW free and accessible for all. Thank you for joining us and have a great week.
Hello, and welcome to the DivInc Founder Showcase. My name is Kevin Allen. I'll be your moderator today. We've got great companies here that are presenting to you, and I'm really excited to introduce them. First, a little bit about DivInc. DivInc is a BIPOC accelerator that was started in Austin, Texas, and is focused around giving entrepreneurs of color a real chance to build great companies. I'm part of an effort along with our chairperson, Zanetta Kelsey, who is bringing DivInc to Colorado, and as part of that, at the Denver Startup Week curriculum, we've got 4 great companies here that we've worked with all week and are looking forward to seeing the fruits of their labor and the businesses that they're building. Again, DivInc is a accelerated program that's 12 weeks. It provides non-dilutive capital to BIPOC founders, and we're really looking forward to continue the effort to bring that here to Colorado. First, let me thank our sponsors, VentureX and 5 Points, where we did all of the great work this week. They were wonderful hosts. It's a great space. If you haven't seen it, go by and check it out. They've got some openings, and they've really got a good thing going, and we were really happy to be there and be a part of their community for this week. Also like to thank Denver Startup Week and the good work that they do in putting this on. Now, on to the good stuff. It's time to present. It's time to see what these great founders are up to. And we've got a great company up first, David Lopez and Gritly. So please give him a warm welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Lopez, and I'm excited to tell you more about our company, Gritly, where our goal is to empower our students to find the economic mobility that they deserve, because we don't succeed unless our students do. Growing up in a low-income, single-parent household, I was always watching my mom struggle just to make ends meet for my siblings and I. So this meant living paycheck to paycheck, living in government-subsidized housing, and being able to celebrate because we knew that we were going to eat good on the 7th when our food stamps came in. All of this culminated to give me the motivation that I knew I needed to be successful and go out and change our family's trajectory. Now, although I didn't know anybody that went to college, I decided that college was the only path that I could find that could bring the success that I thought I needed. Fast forward, and I get there, and I quickly realized that not everybody has the same motivation and drive to help move their mom out of the ghetto like I do. I also realized that at the end of the day, colleges and universities are businesses, and they're paid up front, and they don't share the same incentives of those of their students. To me, I think that's backwards, and I'm glad that we have the right team to solve this problem. Starting with my co-founder and CTO, Avi, who brings years of experience in software development and most recently data analytics, in addition to his drive to grow and scale greatly as a national company first before taking us global and bringing it back to his home country of India. And then we have Lisa, who is our student experience lead, who brings over 10 years of experience in sales and corporate training and development, and she currently runs our cohorts. And then we have Doug, who is our student experience, or who is our operations and finance lead. And together, our team is here to build greatly for all the students that I grew up with that didn't have the right circumstances to go and pursue higher education. Now, in 2021, I think it's obvious, and I think we all know that tech lacks diversity. Now, when you look at the total US population as a whole, and you look at the Black and Latinx individuals, combined, we make up about 35% of the US population. Now, I wish I was shocked to tell you that when it comes to the tech workforce, those same two populations only make up 11.4% of that workforce. Now, if that's not a problem, I don't know what is, but this is where Gritly comes in. We are a career accelerator focused on launching diverse communities into entry-level roles, starting with tech sales. Our first career focus is tech sales. We're doing all of this by building a learning management system that trains our students and matches them up with employers at the end of the program. Our students are coming out ready to prospect, ready to cold call, and ready to navigate your CRM. Our students, although they're coming from non-traditional backgrounds, are bringing a lot of transferable skills that we're able to hone in and make them successful in order to meet our customers' needs and to successfully get them launched in a career in tech. We're building this to solve the problem for high growth companies that are looking to find entry-level talent that can actually get the job done. We're currently operating in a $6.5 billion market that's only going to continue to expand as we continue to extend our impact beyond tech and beyond sales. And we're looking at a total combined revenue for the next 5 years of $64.5 million. We make money based on our customers hiring companies that pay us a $2,000 annual subscription fee. They pay us that to engage with our students and track their performance, followed by a one-time 15% fee just of the first year base salary. And we have just recently implemented deferred tuition agreements with our students where they could pay us $2,400 up front. Now, I don't know about you, I don't have $2,400 laying around like that. And so instead, we also expect about 95% of our students to defer, which means that they'll end up paying us $133 a month for 18 months, only after they get a job making at least $40,000 a year. So we're only making money when our students are making money. Here's our roadmap where we are continuing to test our student experience, our technology, and expansion into new markets. So far, we are on track. We've launched 3 cohorts today with our 4th starting here soon. And this is the revenue that will follow. So we're projected to make $66,000 by the end of this year, with $242,000 by the end of next year, before we really hit our hockey stick growth by implementing the technology and the algorithms that will truly empower our coaches to hit scale and increase the capacity in which they're meeting with students. Our go-to-market strategy consists of building partnerships with both public and private entities, such as nonprofits and workforce development centers. We've actually already launched our pilot programs with all of our partners in Los Angeles, as well as the Community College of Aurora. And we're super excited to begin our partnership pilot program with Justice Rescale in our next upcoming cohort. Now, when it comes to traction, as I just mentioned, we have 4 cohorts, 26 students, and we have 100% placement within 3 months of our program. But more importantly, we have students in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Denver, Dallas, Atlanta, Miami, Baltimore, and New York. But even further than that, I want to walk you through one of our students' experiences. Her name is Mariah. She is Colorado native. She decided to do 1 semester of community college before she realized that school wasn't for her. After that, she went and got into the hospitality field before ultimately going to school, becoming a dental assistant, and then ultimately realizing that that wasn't for her, and then ultimately becoming a bartender. After she participated in our program, Mariah tripled her income, got access to full benefits for the first time, and stock options. And her company just recently hit $1 billion valuation. So the stock options are already worth more than she's currently made in her base salary with commission. We're not the only competitor in our space, but we are the only company that's truly focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So not only are we the most affordable in the market for our students, we have a true emphasis on the small learning groups in order to provide the community and mentorship and support for our students. But then it gets to the equity. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to need an extra helping hand or extra support. And so because of all of that, we built that into the foundation and into our DNA at Gritly. because we're here truly for our students and their success. And that's why we've decided to tie our incentives to theirs. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we do plan to expand outside of tech and outside of sales. We've already had industries such as healthcare, energy, and oil and gas asking how they can get access to our reps. And so that will be expansion plan number one beyond our tech, where we will begin offering specific tailored programs within sales for our students to be launched into those high growth industries. And then further than that is being able to expand our curriculum offering to also include roles such as customer success, marketing, and recruitment, because Gritly will become the #1 pipeline of diverse, qualified talent for entry-level roles in high-growth industries. We're looking to connect with investors in the workforce development space, as well as companies that are looking to grow and diversify their sales organizations. Thank you.
Great presentation. It seems like you guys have gotten a lot of traction. What's next for Gritly?
Yeah, so we're actually really excited to be able to launch our learning management system in this upcoming cohort, as well as testing paid internships for all of our students going from here on out.
That's wonderful. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Great. That was wonderful, David. It sounds like you guys are doing really well and off to a great start. We've got another great company coming up next. This is Clusivi and Cedric Lipsy. Cedric, to the microphone. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cedric Lipsy. Oh,
There we go.
there we go. All right. Let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. My name is Cedric Lipsy, and I am the founder and CEO of Clusivi. Clusivi is all about access, inclusivity, and prosperity. What we offer is a hybrid layaway model, which functions as, if you're not familiar with layaway is when you typically go into a Walmart, or it used to be Kmart back in the day, for those of you who are around my age, I'm dating myself, but you would go into these stores, you would put something on layaway, you put down 10%, and then you set a payment schedule for either 1 week, 2 weeks, and you do this for over a period of 2 to 3 months, and then you go back and pick up the item that you had on layaway. But what we're introducing into the marketplace is a hybrid layaway model. So it's traditional layaway up front, where again, you put down the 10% and you make payments, but then we reward you after you've reached 50 to 60% of those payments on time. We reward you with financing for the remaining 40 to 50%. However, we're not just layaway for, we're not layaway for consumable goods. We are layaway for high ticket services. And our vision is to create the future of how high ticket services are bought and sold in the future. Let me give you a few examples by what I mean by high ticket services. We're looking at anything from plumbing and HVAC to a small home renovation, or coaching and consulting, wedding planning, managed IT support, and/or elective procedures, things like cosmetic dentistry and the like. Basically, what we find in these marketplaces is that the majority of people who are interested in these high ticket services are the people who are least likely or least able to afford them. And if the majority of people who want what you are selling are least able to afford what you are selling, you're leaving a large portion of your revenue on the table. And that is the challenge and the problem that Clusivi is designed to solve. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of our program and our software. We're basically a SaaS model, software as a service, fintech in the fintech arena. And the benefits that we offer to consumers and to businesses are along these lines. So for consumers, we are income and schedule friendly. Again, the consumer gets to determine how often they want their account to be debited, which is unlike anything else that's currently in the marketplace. We require no credit check and no interest. Basically, what we're doing is changing the game by introducing non-FICO and non-deposit based access to credit, again, which is a real game changer. And for businesses, what we're doing is removing price as the primary obstacle. Like if I were to do a quick survey in this room, and I were to ask those of you who are here, How often or have you ever at any point in your career had to represent or sell a service or a product and ran into price as an objection? By a show of hands, how many would say you've ever had that as a challenge? And for those of you who are watching via live stream, in case you can't see, that's pretty much the entire room that has run into this challenge of having to sell a high ticket service or product and run into price as the primary objective. Let me do this one more time if you guys will help me out just once more. How many times or how many of you have ever at any point in your life wanted to purchase a product or a service only to have to figure out how you would be able to pay for it? Once again, for those of you who are watching via live stream, that's pretty much the whole room. What you have just demonstrated is what happens across this country and indeed around the entire world on a daily basis. You have sellers of goods and services trying to sell their product, running into this issue of price, and you have consumers who want to purchase these products running into an issue of price. So what we're doing at Clusivi is providing a solution where now the sellers don't have to leave that revenue on the table and the buyers don't have to be subjected to predatory lending and credit in order to access the goods and services they most want or need. And it's simple the way it operates. So basically, again, you put a 10% down payment for the consumer. They just they go onto our site, they put down 10%. It takes them less than 5 minutes to complete the whole process. And then once they reach 50% of their payments, again, they become eligible for non-FICO, non-deposit based. I have to keep stressing that because that is really what's so important when we're talking about bringing the larger segment of the market into to the purchasing table. And so they're getting non-credit or non-FICO based and non-deposit based access to credit. And of course, what the main benefit of that to the consumer is that now they have expedited receiving the product or service that they're purchasing. And then it's simple also for the businesses. It takes a business less than 5 minutes to create an account. All they need to do is offer the consumer, you've met with a consumer who's interested in the product or service that you're offering. They start to and you know, when you ask them how they want to pay for this or how do they want to take care of this, you offer them Clusivi as a payment option. Obviously, we recognize that cash and credit are going to be your primary options. But again, we also recognize that that is the smallest segment of the people who are wanting what you have, who are able to pull out cash and credit right then and there at the point of sale. So then the business owner now, instead of letting that consumer or that customer walk out of their doors, can say, hey, here's a payment plan that we have designed. We're in partnership with a company that allows you to put 10% down. We determine the length of time. So the business gets to say, where our product is very different, the business gets to say, we're going to do this in 12 months or 6 months. But the consumer gets to say, I want my account debited once a week, once every 2 weeks, or once a month. So it is the only model that is on the marketplace that allows this kind of seamless negotiation between buyer and seller for high ticket services. Now, technically, our target market will classify it as BNPL, which is buy now, pay later. And in case you didn't know, this marketplace has ballooned to $90.69 billion in 2020 alone, and is expected to reach $3.98 trillion by 2030. And of course, we plan to get our little piece of that action. But let me tell you first about how we're a little different than what's currently on the marketplace. And some of these things you've already heard me mention, but so under BNPL, those are basically installment payment companies. And Clusivi is a little different in that, number one, they offer or focus on low ticket goods or consumable goods. Clusivi is all about high ticket services. They promote impulse purchasing. We're all about planned purchasing. They're all about buy now, pay later. We're more plan now for later. They offer very rigid terms, being 4 to 6 weeks for the most part. We're the only product in the marketplace that offers our level of term flexibility. So our business model, here's how we get our piece of that action. We take a 10% management fee from the businesses on each transaction. So with that 10%, that initial down payment that a customer puts down to begin their layaway process, that's in essence the fee that the business is paying to our company to not only collect, but to manage the entire process, dripping on the customer to let them know, to keep them motivated, how far along they are. And then we provide a back office key to that business where they can go in and see how far along every customer is and when they can expect to begin providing services. And then the second way we make our money is that once the customer reaches that 50 to 60% mark that I talked about, we reward their payment history by offering them financing, non-FICO based financing. We offer that to them, and we take a flat fee at that occasion as well. And here are our financial projections for year one, or Q1 and Q2 of year one. And we will reach this by signing up a minimum of 5,000 businesses that charge a minimum service cost of $1,000. And by Q3 and Q4, we are earning an average of $250 per customer. And the way we reach this, again, is we expect each business to sign up no less than 1 to 2 customers on our platform per month. And what that means for us by year 2 is we expect to be earning $1.25 to $2.5 million per month by year 2 of operation. And here's our go-to-market strategy. We are basically looking to partner with professional associations, chambers of commerce, and financial institutions who can enhance the value that they provide to their customers by offering our services. For as an example, a part of our traction is we've already signed up with a Seattle-based organization that has over 15,000 business members who we are working with to offer our services to their customers on kind of a white label type of basis. Many of our competitors you're quite familiar with if you've bought anything from a sweater to a refrigerator over the last few years. Basically, they all charge some level of interest or have very strict or rigid repayment terms, again, being 4 to 6 weeks. And when we're talking about a $5,000 purchase, I don't know about you, but 4 to 6 weeks is not quite long enough for me. And here's the big picture. Just like the other now legendary companies that you are all very well familiar with, we recognize that we're introducing something very new into the marketplace. And just like those companies, many didn't see the vision up front, but we totally expect to solve a problem that the world did not yet know it had in a very new and different way, and carve out our own lane of planned purchasing within the BNPL marketplace. And here's the team that's helping me accomplish all of these goals. Of course, myself as Chief Executive Officer, Gary Walker, Chief Technology Officer, Pise Ono, our Social Media Manager, and Ty Ono, our Chief Marketing Officer. You can keep in touch with us and follow what we're doing. If anything I said intrigues you via Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and please get in touch with us at clusivigo.com/DSW. Thank you.
Great. Great job. It looks like you're really hitting a niche here in the consumer finance market that needs to be filled. I'm curious, what made you come up with this idea? What led you to this business model?
It's very personal. So I was really frustrated needing some expensive dental work. And when the guy quoted me the price, man, I nearly almost fell out of my chair. But what made me curious is I had the credit for it, and they offered me Care Credit, who's the primary financier in elective procedures, right? But what I hated were the terms, because I despise consumer debt. That's just kind of my personal issue, right? So I started wondering how many more people out there were like me who wanted to purchase something like any kind of expensive dental work, whether it's braces or whatever, but didn't have access because they didn't want to go into debt, or they were already maximized on their credit, but didn't stop their need for the service. So that really is what inspired me, was that nagging experience. And when I looked at when I did my research, basically I found that was true for millions of other consumers who were in the same boat as me. And so I decided to provide a solution.
Cedric, that's wonderful. And just so you know, I shopped in Kmart, and I'll do you one better, going to the Five and Dimes, Woolworths with my mother, getting everything from, toys to clothes. And so I'm with you there. But great job, Cedric. Thank you very much. Great. We've got another great company coming up next, and we've got 2 presenters. We've got Diego Montemayor and Karina Hierro, who are coming up and going to present Champa for us. It's a great company and feels a real need. And I think you all, their message will really resonate with a lot of folks and the circumstances of today.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you very much for making it. And DivInc, thank you so much for the opportunity as well. And we also want to thank Deferred Startup Week for the invitation. How many of you guys have ever struggled getting a job? Think back. It could have been your first job, McDonald's or Target, whatever. Could be a job right after college, or even right now transitioning careers. Now, how many of you have struggled getting a job because you just moved from another country, don't know the language, the culture, and have zero network? That is my family's story and also my story. My name is Diego Montemayor, co-founder and CEO of Champa, where we help companies hire Latino job seekers.
My story is no different. I'm also an immigrant, and I share the same beginnings with at least 60 million other Latinos here in this country. My name is Corina Hierro, and I am the public relations specialist with Champa.
And you might be thinking, dude, you struggled to get a job because of the sandals, but no. We knew these problems existed way before the pandemic, but they were highlighted during this past year. And we know that there's a hugely untapped Latino workforce that's mainly offline, and that companies don't necessarily have a direct contact with these active job seekers that are out there. And also, we are not the first ones to create a job platform, but we are making the one platform where we welcome the Latino job seeker and also make it easier for them to access job opportunities in their language. So our solution for that problem was to create a platform that enables companies to recruit Latino job seekers, and also for the job seekers to access more opportunities online and in their language. One of our missions is to bring the Latino workforce community into the digital world that we saw now, hugely migrating into the digital world due to the pandemic.
So we currently have 4 products on the market. We have 2 for the job seeker, which is a phone app and a web page. And we also have 2 for the employer, a professional dashboard and also a phone app.
Some of our milestones so far, we launched in April 2020, exactly when the pandemic hit. Surviving that pandemic was a challenge for us. Here we are now. On July 2020, we hit our first 10,000 users in the app. In October 2020, we raised our first angel investment of 100,000, which enabled us to create the product, hire the dream team, and do some marketing. In September 2021, we were accepted to a leading accelerator, which is top secret right now. And today we find ourselves with 74,000 users in the app.
So all it takes is for you to walk outside to see the dozens of hiring signs. We have a shortage of workers, and there's a really high demand for jobs. Also, our community keeps growing. And with the pandemic, a lot more folks entered into the digital world. Think about even something as simple as QR codes.
So far, we have had more than 2,000 companies registered in the app. We have 74,000 job seekers in the app. Right now, we are around 15 job seekers, active job seekers monthly, and our metrics keep growing.
Our target market is the blue-collar Latino job seekers, and the industries that we serve are the manufacturing, hospitality, cleaning, and construction.
So, sorry. Our market right now with the industries that we serve, we know that a customer gives us $1,100 a year. We know that there's 2.2 million businesses that we can serve, and that puts us at $2.7 billion in total available market. Champa is user-friendly, and we have a unique worker, which is the Latino workforce, and that's where we found opportunity.
So why Champa over other job platforms? We're the first to market and first to scale. We have a unique worker. This is the Latino workforce. We understand their behavior of this particular job seeker, and our brand speaks directly to this specific market. Our go-to strategy. We used our social media influence to talk directly to our consumers, to employers, and also build a community online. That way we became trustworthy. Not only are we present online, but we're also present locally in our community, creating partnerships to source job seekers and employers. We also have removed barriers like language barriers and accessibility. We're low cost, easy to use. We also do direct sales to businesses. As a former TV reporter, I knew that we needed to have that direct contact with our audience, with our community viewers. So we decided to use our connections in the TV industry to share our story. So here you're going to be able to see some of the screenshots. We've been able to share our mission of Champa with morning shows, national TV channels, both English and Spanish. And in the back, you might see a screenshot. It's one of my favorite stories to tell because we were in Los Angeles and somebody wrote us saying, hey, my dad was able to get a job because of Champa, and we moved out of the Motel 6s that we were living in. And that's what makes this job so fulfilling.
How do we make money? We have a subscription model, and we charge $99 to the companies, and they can post as many listings as they want, also in whatever locations that they want. We have a standard monthly, which limits them to 3 postings per month, and $2.99 per applicant model. Meet the team: CEO, public relations specialist, United Nations background, TV background, and the remaining of the folks also come from the United Nations and other big name companies. Right now, we are raising $1 million pre-seed with 750 already committed. And this is to finance, to grow our marketing efforts. Also, our sales team to capture 2,000 companies with high hiring demands and hit 500,000 registered users in the app, which will translate into 2.3 million in revenue over 12 months. We want to really focus on staffing companies because we know that they really enjoy using Champa as their HR tool. For the grand vision of Champa is to take Champa to the countries where our workers come from. Thank you very much.
You guys did a really great job, and I love the focus of the business. You talked a lot about trust. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you're building that trust in the community, both on the worker side as well as the corporate side in terms of your product?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes down to sharing that our passion comes from direct experiences, right? We are those workers, we are that community. And also just showing who is behind the product, right? Being involved in the community, not only virtually, but also in person.
I love it.
Yeah, and also same thing that he said, we are immigrants, we're Latinos, we know the struggle. So I think we're very relatable to our particular target market, and also, doing stories, sharing our story with TV channels and social media.
Touching on the business side, members of our team are big names in the industries that we work with, so that also brings us a lot of trust with them.
That's awesome. I love it. Doing well by doing good, right? It's an outstanding business model. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Great. Well, wonderful presentation so far, and batting cleanup for us, last but not least, is going to be Susie Libra Gonzalez, who is presenting Index. Please give her a warm welcome. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Susie, and I'm one of the co-founders of Index. Index is a social learning platform that allows users to discover and organize all the best articles, podcasts, books, and documentaries in one organized place. I really like to think of it as Pinterest for learning, if you all are familiar with Pinterest, but you'll learn more as I go through the presentation here today. So the key problem that we're solving is that learning is fundamentally broken outside of structured institutions, even though it is critical for personal and professional growth. That, coupled with the fact that multimedia content is exploding in volume over the last decade, it makes it really hard to find that really important, impactful piece of content that will make you a better entrepreneur, real estate agent, or whatever that means for you. Some quick facts for you. There's over 500 hours of video that are uploaded to YouTube every single minute. There's 48 million podcast episodes that exist today alone. And there's 5 million blog posts that are created on WordPress every single day. That is a lot of content that's out on the internet, and it's only going to get exponentially worse. That's not only a problem for myself and my co-founder that ran into this issue when we were starting Index, it's also an issue for a lot of people like Paige. Paige is a 28-year-old that's focused in business development for her career professionally. She doesn't have a lot of time as she's in her mid-career, and she has only about 5 to 10 hours a week to consume a new piece of content. And so she really struggles to find really impactful content. And there's times where she's wasting all this time searching and consuming really bad content that's not really relevant to her. There's also times that she can't return to a piece of content that she found, or she catches herself thinking, oh, where was that piece of content when she's having a coffee or a beer with a friend? And she's like, oh, I've listened to this podcast. Where do I find it? It's really hard to return to it. And this is a big problem for ourselves and others because the content that she spends her time on impacts the way that she lives her life, the way that she raises her family, the way that she allocates capital. It's important. And that's why some of our users have shared with us their personal stories of what they're currently doing to solve this problem. And it's not great. So people are creating Google Docs of all of these links that shows like all their podcasts, their books, their articles. But as you can see, there's just an endless link track and there's no quality or format to any of it. People are creating manual Notion databases where it's really laborious and people don't have time to really do this, or most people don't, so it's a big issue. Or people are trying tools like Pocket or Instapaper to save their content, but then it just becomes this long laundry list. And the problem with this is that there's no community to learn with others. And we believe that the best learning happens when you get to really discuss in a group. And that's why we're building Index. Index is the first social learning app that allows people to curate and share the best content to learn together, whatever that means for you, to become a better entrepreneur, tech investor, or whatever. We want that Index to be that platform. So going back to Paige. So now Paige within Index, she has the ability to have a community where she can get her next recommendation from a friend. And you'll notice that on Index, it doesn't have any comments, any likes. It's really intentional where you can trust from your friends that this is a piece of content that has been vetted by your friend. So you're not wasting time searching a piece of content. Rather, if you're trying to learn more about the Latinx workforce, I can just go to Diego's Index page, for example. And the other view is your personal digital library. And in your digital library, what you have is an organized view of all of your content by format, whether that's business, career, cryptocurrency, whatever it is, it's all there. Back to the Pinterest analogy. So if you're familiar with Pinterest, you can do custom boards of DIY or laundry room ideas. With Index, you can have custom collections based on your interests. So if you're trying to learn about Bitcoin, you can have an entire collection where it has all of the best podcasts, articles, books, you name it in there. And so then if the next time you're having a conversation with a friend to learn about said topic, you can just say, hey, check out my Index, instead of sending a bunch of links back and forth or Slack messages or emails. Traction today, last fall, while we were still in our corporate jobs, I built this low-code app using Adalo, and there was a ton of friction. And we had over 200 customer interviews. And when I say friction, I mean, every time they used the app, people had to manually enter their password. and they had to manually enter the URL of the link and all the titles and the images. It was very, very cumbersome, but people were still using it, which gave us the conviction and the knowledge that we were onto something that wasn't just for us, but highly curious individuals with that growth mentality to want to become a better X. Today, we have our iOS app in a public beta. We launched in the App Store last week, and we're seeing intense usage from our early users that are on there today. So some quick stats and learnings for you all. We have over 250 users in the app today with 180 monthly active, 90 weekly active, and 40 daily active users. To date, we've had over 3,000 pieces of content saved by all of our users, of which 2,600 have been consumed within the app. We're also working on product-led growth. So within the app, you can recommend others to join you, to follow you. And we have about a 17% referral conversion. So that's going up really well. But perhaps what's most exciting to me and our team is the fact that we have users like John that tell us, like, Index makes sharing what I'm learning and engaging, discovering with those I trust 100 times easier. And people like Pat, he says, when I go to Index, I don't feel guilty doom scrolling like I do on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. I recognize that I'm going to learn something new and it's adding value to my life instead of making me feel guilty or whatever it is with some traditional apps. The way that we're going to make money is through a freemium business model. And we've thought through a lot of different options here. The reason we've chosen freemium is because we want to make sure that our app is accessible to anybody who wants to level up and learn. But we've also learned that our users are willing to pay $7.99 a month for premium features. A comparable business model or an inspirational business model for us is Strava. So if you're familiar with Strava or not, anybody can use Strava to track your run, your swims, your bikes. And if you want to get access to advanced features, you pay a premium fee. So that's our first revenue model. Our second revenue model is to actually allow the curators of this content to get compensated for all this time that they're spending in curating this content, because I know people in my life that spend hours looking for the best content out there, and I'm willing to pay $5 to a buddy that's done all the work, because for me, a busy professional, it saves me time, and $5 is nothing. So that's our additional freemium model or additional revenue model. This is the team that's currently building it. Myself, I'm the COO and co-founder, and Thomas, we've known each other for the last 4 years. We attended graduate school at the University of Notre Dame and have been working in technology consulting for the last 3 years. Thomas left consulting in April and I joined this June, and we've been doing Index full time since then. Malin joined our team this spring and she's an incredible developer. She's really well recognized in the iOS community and has built previous apps that have been featured in the App Store numerous times. So this is our existing team. We're currently raising $1 million on a post money save to hire additional developers and also a small marketing and legal budget to help us reach some product milestones, some of which include expanding on our product roadmap, building and launching our web app, and hitting additional users and working on our retention metrics. Long term, we want Index to be the one unified platform where end users come discover and learn the next article, book, podcast recommendation that they are looking for. And we want influential curators to be able to come onto the platform to share their expertise that they've learned to become a better entrepreneur, or whatever that means for the user. And last but not least, we want the content creators to be able to come to our platform to really understand how their content across YouTube, Medium, articles, across all of these platforms, how they are performing. And that is our long-term vision for Index. You can find us on the App Store or follow us on social media here. Thank you.
Great job. I love this model. It really resonates with me as a busy person. I can remember a trip I took and there was a bunch of us and we're all scrambling to look, can we get ready for the trip? And this would have been the perfect tool for us. So I'm certainly going to engage. I'm curious, when did you first realize that this was going to be a great thing to jump on as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of problems in this, like, that I see every day. Like, I grew up in southeastern Colorado, and So access to rural Wi-Fi is one big pain point for me. But I realized that there were other teams working on that. And so throughout my life, I've always looked for opportunities for things that I am passionate about. And learning has been a key way for me to access opportunities that I otherwise wouldn't have had. And so because of that, when I was working in technology consulting with Thomas, we were sending each other all these links for machine learning, data science projects. And we realized that it was everywhere. And we were talking to our friends or people in our network, and they're like, we have the same problem. And then after validating with the low code app, we realized that, hey, this is it. So that gave us the conviction to really go forward.
That's awesome. I applaud you as an entrepreneur. It's really scary to put something out there.
Yeah.
And you guys did a great thing by testing the market and getting feedback and then iterating on that. And I think that was really smart, and you can see the dividends that is paying off. So thank you, Susie.
Thank you, Kevin.
Appreciate it. First of all, let's give a big round of applause again to all of our entrepreneurs. You guys have done a great job. You know, I'm an entrepreneur myself. I've got 2 exits as a founder in software, and I appreciate the journey that you all are on and undertaking. And I want to keep you up here, because one of the big things that was missing for me, particularly early on, was examples like all of you, people of color who are out there building scalable business and technology. And you sort of had to figure it out. So I want to keep you guys here and give the audience the benefit of your experiences and ask a couple questions if you guys don't mind. All right, starting here with David, and we'll walk down the row. I'd love to understand sort of, first of all, what you did before you became an entrepreneur. Give me a little bit about your backgrounds and what brought you to this journey.
I mean, I've been an entrepreneur since I was. So I've been an entrepreneur since I was in high school. I started a tutoring company, and really I started for the money. I was in high school making $20 an hour, and I was loving it. But really, it was the impact that, I was having, where I was seeing my students go from, 3 private tutors to just working with me, and then seeing their grades jump, in crazy ways, that I was like, okay, I want impact. And so, during my undergrad, I went to University of Colorado Boulder, where I just got involved in that ecosystem. I just have been building really ever since. And so Gritly is a culmination of a previously failed startup. Took that book of business, translated over, and made that pivot. And, we've been kind of running ever since. And so to be quite honest with you, I'm an entrepreneur through and through, and working for somebody else just kind of isn't for me. But I don't have any entrepreneurs in my family. So, I just feel like it was something in me that, talking about my struggle, that, I had to do something different, and I wanted to be in control. And so really that's where it came from.
Thank you, Dave.
So for me, kind of like my friend Dave here, I just, entrepreneurship has just kind of always been in my blood. I love, this is going to sound really weird to all of you. I actually happen to love sales, and I actually happen to love people. So that's been kind of my career path up to this point. And, but like I talked about during my pitch, I recognize that one of the primary obstacles for people in sales, let alone the people they're selling to, but the people in sales, is that you keep running into this thing of, how am I going to pay for this? So having that as a nagging problem as a salesperson throughout my career, it just seems like a natural thing for me to solve, being that I've always kind of had that entrepreneurial bug and passion. So that's what kind of, led me down this path to develop and design this product, is because, again, it's like the hair club for men. I'm not just the president, I'm also a client. You know what I mean? So that's what excites me about being an entrepreneur, and that's what led me down this path.
Great.
So I did the typical route. I went to college. I got my degree. I went to a career that I thought was my dream place, my dream job. And being so close to my Latino community, when I quit, I decided, I need to continue creating a positive impact using my skill set, but outside of what was, the typical corporate life or the TV industry. So when I was invited into Champa to, help my community get jobs, I loved the mission, and I decided to go for it. And it's been a wonderful learning experience so far, and I've been loving it. And it's been a huge learning experience and a lot of experimentation, building a company from the ground up.
Sure.
I've been always into entrepreneurship. I've always been self-employed as well. But being, part of a Latino community, my family, pardon me, my parents were like, hey, why don't you try going to university and getting a corporate job, a good job, right? So I did that. I graduated from CU Boulder as well, just as David, in political science. Then I got my dream job at the United Nations in Asia. And I did not like what I saw there, and the impact that they were having was too slow. So I decided to quit my dream job, come back to Colorado, and found Champa. And it was in the middle of a pandemic. I didn't have no job, and I was creating a platform for jobs. So the moment I placed a job seeker into a job, that's when I knew this was going to be my long-term mission here.
So for me, Kevin, I remember my first taste of entrepreneurship at my mom's kitchen table. And I think my mom's an entrepreneur herself, making tamales and selling them to people in town. And I love that, and just helping her, and she'd like pay me a little bit, and I'd go like tell my teachers like, hey, my mom made tamales, like, do you want to buy some? So people love them. So that's like my first taste of entrepreneurship that I can remember. But then throughout my journey, I went to university. I'm a retired mechanical engineer. I studied engineering at Gonzaga, loved it. And then I moved to the Midwest for a little bit for my first job, realized that I literally didn't want to be in the nuts and bolts of building things. I wanted to pivot more software. And so I ended up going to graduate school for business, and they took a bunch of like technical folks, and they taught us the difference between like an income statement and a balance sheet, and like how to make a profitable business. And for me, that really gave me like the confidence to understand what makes a scalable business. And then now I've been able to work for the last couple of years in consulting to really save up enough money to give myself and the company and the team the opportunity to really go full-fledged on Index with no regrets. And yeah, so that's a little bit about my journey of entrepreneurship.
That's awesome. And Susie, we'll start with you now and come back this way this
Okay.
time. And what's so interesting is everybody kind of had careers before and then found this passion, right? That you've always known you've had or found throughout your career. And passion is so important for being an entrepreneur, because it is hard. It is hard to start a business. It's hard to run a business. It's hard to grow a business. It's even more difficult when you're leaving something that's very lucrative to do something that pays you nothing for usually longer than we'd like as entrepreneurs, right? And I think that problem is exacerbated when you're a person of color, because the way that the industry has formed, it has been largely a white male dominated industry. That's just the facts, because of the way businesses and venture has run. And I think as founders of color, I can remember my first business, a venture capitalist pulling me aside until I was 25 years old, I was right out of business school. And a venture capitalist told me I was too young and too Black to get funded. Told me this in the meeting. And it stuck with me. It's like, well why? Why is that the case? And there are all these nuances to social construct, particularly here in the United States, that create barriers, quite frankly, for founders of color. And I'd be interested to hear from your perspective, all of you, what barriers you see, what challenges you see as founders of color, and how you look to face those challenges.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like I was talking to somebody about, I was reading this book and talking through the pandemic and asking like people of color, like the resiliency that we have of like, we're going to get through this no matter what. And I think it's just built in us. And it's this optimism, this hope of we can do this no matter what. And like when somebody tells you that, it's like, oh, I'll show you, like, like, oh, well, I'm going to change that, or we're going to change that collectively because we have each other's back. And so I think for me, there's those challenges, of course, exist. But finding allies, like fellow entrepreneurs, like other people that really advocate for you, like having allies that are white men that can bring you up to the conversation, or if you're networking where there's only men and they bring your voice up because people don't ask you like, what do you do? And it's like, well, we're part of the same team. We're a partnership, So just getting allies in your corner all throughout has been helpful with those challenges that come for founders.
Kevin, that's an excellent question because just as you, I did face the same answer. You're too brown, right? If it was this other person, you would have already raised a lot of money or, gotten more opportunities, blah, 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 blah. So just as she said, I think we have that power to be resilient and just really take everything, right? I mean, we already came here to another country. We survived that, right? We, all of us here have had, careers. We already did that. So everything's possible, right? And being an entrepreneur, and a minority, we start from the bottom, right? We cannot go any deeper than that. So I think it's just within us, right, to overcome all those obstacles.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something noticeable when you walk into rooms and you don't see faces that look like yours. You don't see enough brown faces in the room. So it's definitely work to, build that network and with people that understand your background. And as a minority, it's also inspiring because like Diego said, our parents came here to this country risking everything. And that's similar to what we do, jumping into, tech where there's not enough Latinos in tech. And I think it's been definitely a difficult road, but I believe that we're on the way to inspiring more people and bringing more of our community into tech.
Yeah, so like these guys, again, great question. For me, it's I think the word that comes to mind is audacity, right? It's like I can't tell you how many times I walked in a room and run into a two-pronged challenge. One being layaway, who needs that? Why wouldn't you just pay for it? And I'm like, what world are you from? Where you just pull out money and credit cards and just pay for things. You do realize that's not the majority of the population, right? So that being one. So when you're trying to, build a company from scratch and you're bootstrapping, so you don't have time to do the job that's actually that you're most qualified for and trained for, because that takes too much of your time, right? Even though it pays you more. So you got to go and do all these little odd and ends jobs, to bootstrap, keep your expenses low to get your business going. And then, it's like, well, why don't you have more traction? It's like, so I'm broke. And so trying to build a business without capital and that sort of thing. But then all the capital people, for the most part, don't look like you. So and you're talking to them about this concept that is a foreign concept. And then the second part of that challenge is the audacity, right? What makes you think you are qualified to have a unicorn? The fact that I think I'm qualified to have a unicorn. That's what qualifies me, is because of what I've gone through. It's because of what I understand. It's because of what my connection is to people. And, and lastly, I know growing up as a young man in rural Alabama, I didn't come from a third world country, but if you drove around, you would think that's where we were, all these little hidden pockets in America that, we don't really talk about. We talk about them in Africa, India, and other places around the world. But I literally grew up in a place very similar here in this country. So where all of the odds were technically stacked against me. And so while I don't have a lot of the traditional, I don't check a lot of the boxes that, investors and people like investors want you to check, I check all of the boxes when it comes to just ingenuity, when it comes to being able to outwork the next guy, being able to stay up all night to learn whatever I need to learn, and not just learn it, but actually apply it. And so my challenge is, or to everyone listening to this, is imagine what happens if you start to put income money behind that, not just what I can show you as far as traditional checkbox is concerned.
+1 to everything, honestly. And I mean, I hear it, and more importantly, I feel it. And I mean, to just bring it home, it's to keep it, honest, is we're over mentored and underfunded. I think that's what it comes down to. And to overcome that, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just going to keep building. That's the only thing that we can do. And the impact that we have and traction we get will continue to show for itself. And, when investors are ready, so are we.
No, and David, we'll come back here for the last question, but I heard a lot of common themes amongst the answers from all of you, right? It's about overcoming, it's about the passion, it's about, overcoming the stereotypes. We're all judged, whether we like it or not, the second we walk in a room. And sometimes that judgment doesn't work in our favor, particularly in the context of raising money. Asking someone to give you $1 million for an idea that you have, asking them to trust you as an entrepreneur when they have no basis of other people of color who've executed on this. They don't know anybody. And so I think one of the things that resonates with me, and one of the reasons why I love the DivInc model, and we're working so hard to bring that here, is first of all, it provides that community. We talked about community and getting to know each other. You feel so isolated as a founder of color a lot of times that you're kind of on an island, and you're not. And so bringing those communities together of like-minded individuals is very, very important. I think the second thing that the DivInc model does to alleviate some of this is bring non-dilutive capital to the table. Most accelerator programs take equity in your business when they provide the service, when they provide the capital, and DivInc looks at it in a different way. And I think the final thing is, and Susie, I think you made this point, a lot of times I think as people of color, we develop in sort of a silo. We kind of stick to our silo. We need to plug into the broader market, but we need to be ready for that, because there are things that happen when you go that direction that you need to be ready for. And I think programs like DivInc that bring BIPOC founders together allow us to have this sort of open dialogue to prepare, not only for the things you have to do as an entrepreneur, right? You got to have your go-to-market, you've got to have your revenue plan, your exit plan, all of that, but also to prepare for how you'll be engaging and what you need to do, the nuances of that communication that's so important in getting a good partner, in getting the financing done, and landing a sale. And so it's good to hear that all of you have decided that you're going to get through it, and that no matter what comes, the passion in your project and in your entrepreneurial journey is what's going to lead you down the path. So that's really great. And for the last question, I want, this is so important to me, and again, we talk about this theme of inclusivity and representation being important for folks coming up. I need to see an entrepreneur that looks like me, to have that passion, to find that hope, because you don't want that imposter syndrome where you feel like you don't belong in the room. You want to see this person is in the room and they belong. I too can belong. So I'd wonder, what advice would each of you give to an up and coming founder of color that will help them sort of get through the entrepreneurial journey? What would you tell that person?
I think it's just two things. One is find your community. Where there's not a lot of us, but we are here. DivInc and hosting events like this and the happy hours, right? You got to show up to those. You got to get involved and you got to build that community, because once you have it, it's there and we're strong and we back each other, and more importantly, we understand each other, what that's like. And you may have your friends, you may have your families, but when it comes to building a startup in tech, all of those challenges and everything doesn't always, resonate with everybody. And so to find that community is ultimately really important. And then just the second part of that is to launch, right? We had all of these ideas, all these projections about what it was going to be like when we did that. And then we actually launched and everything was different, but it was different in better ways that we didn't even imagine. So, your MVP is going to be ugly. It might barely work, hanging on by shoestrings, but everything that you learn post launch will ultimately help you to building the next $1 billion unicorn that can come out and being built by a founder of color. So community and launch.
Yeah, so just as an extension of what Dave has already said so wonderfully, is my advice would be to don't be afraid to collaborate. This is a difficult journey trying to do it alone. And I think in a lot of times in communities of color, we feel because, some of the business aspects may not be, as prevalent in our communities or what have you, you tend to feel the need to keep things very close to the vest and, and not allow other people to participate. But I would highly recommend communicating with other individuals that, that you can find through different mediums to help you along the way, to advise you along the way. And then, lastly, for me, I'm really big on, discipline and integrity. I think that's everything. I think, obviously everything, that shiny isn't good or that glitters isn't gold, and, so be very cautious about jumping at the first thing that's offered to you. Long before when I first had my idea, it wasn't even really on paper yet. Someone tried to make a predatory offer to me, seeing the value of what I was doing. And so I had to, fortunately, I'm a little older, and I've been there, done that before. And so I was able to back away from that situation and say, nah, thank you for the validation, but, I got this. This is a little early for what you're trying to take for what you're offering me. So I would say, know that everything that glitters isn't gold. Not all money is good money. So take your time, collaborate with the right people, and stay true. That's why discipline and integrity are so big to me. Stay true to who you are, what you're building, and know that you don't need to compromise yourself, your image, or anything else. I have a saying that I say, at this stage, when it comes to entrepreneurs of color, my thing is I'm not so interested in diversifying the players on the field as I am of getting rid of the frickin' playbook. So that's.
It's been really important to be comfortable in uncomfortable spaces, really be confident in what you bring to the table, and also don't be afraid to continue learning. You're a forever student. You learn every day, and you need to have a good network. You need to have good mentors, and you need to be okay with rejection. There's going to be a lot of no's in the beginning, and that just means, you have to keep going, and keep growing, basically.
Well, amazing answers. I have three things. First, and super important, you got to show up. It doesn't matter what it is, right? The time, you got to show up. You got to show that you are bringing something to the table and be involved, right? Second, you have to be an essentialist. Something that I practice every day is, well, the main thing is to keep the main thing, right? And thirdly, don't be afraid of talking about your product, because you don't know if you're sitting in front of the person that's going to write you the next check.
I think a couple of things. The first one being shoot your shot. Don't be afraid to just take it. I feel like David was saying with your MVP may be ugly, but there's no better feedback than from your users. So one, shoot your shot, and two, when the rejections get hard from the no's from whoever it may be, stay close to your customers, because you're building for them. And when you hear validation from your customers, that's everything. When you hear the success stories of the brother getting his dad a job, or of Maria or Mariah, all of these stories are what keep us going. And so for other entrepreneurs, I imagine the stories of Pat for me, with Index, the value that you're bringing to their life is everything. So stay close to your customers, especially when times get hard.
No, that's great. I love that advice. Push through, persevere, build your community, right? And stay true to your guns. Your integrity is important. I mean, I think that's all great stuff. I often talk to, and now I'm in that stage in my career, in my journey, where I'm becoming more mentor and investor than I am actually building businesses. And, I ask folks, now that I'm in the room, right? Now I'm not pitching, I'm actually in the room, why don't you have a portfolio that represents the diversity of the country that we're in? And it's oh, I can't find any, founders of color. Well, we've got 4 up here that I think have really great businesses. So let's give them all a round of applause. Yeah, just hold that. Well, I'd like to wrap it up. I'd like to thank again our sponsors. VentureX and 5 Points was great facility. I implore all of you to stop by and check it out. It really is a special place. I'd like to thank Denver Startup Week, the Combos on Champa, and of course, remember to support DivInc. We're going to be having events. We're going to be having social hours. We're going to be building that community and eventually bringing that programming here to Colorado. So I am encouraged by what I see up here and what the possibilities are for all of us as entrepreneurs in general in the state and in the country. And I think this is a great foundation start. So thank you all very much. And it was a pleasure, truly. Thank you.